everybody. I'm up here again. Doing something a little bit different. This is mostly, well, this is all from my dissertation. I'm going to be talking about something that is already in print, well, online, in print. So I'm not going to go too much into the details. I'm really just going to try and hit the implications. And then I'm going to talk about a few minor things that I've written nothing about, and I'm just starting to think about. So I'm kind of squeezing a flash talk into a more informal presentation. So it's that sociological forum. Acknowledgements, everyone who helped with my dissertation, all the organizations, my committee, and also thank you, Kim. I've been waiting for this moment since the Indiana meeting, so I'm really, really excited, and we also think it's happening more often. So I'm not going to go too much into the affect control theory of self, other than the major concepts that I'm interested in here, self-sentiments that are evoked from our persona, which is our characteristics, physical appearance, personality traits, all these things that make me Kate. These are the self-sentiments that are evoked by the persona. With evaluation, potency, activity, so I'm sure some of you are way more steeped in ACT, but Neil's book really, and his book with Dave in 2010 also really kind of hones in on the relationship between self-sentiments and self-esteem, self-worth, self-efficacy, and start to touch on mental health, including depression. So what I basically do in this paper, so the self-actualization proposition is that we select identities that have EPA profiles located closely to our self-sentiments. So theoretically, if we have someone's self-sentiments, we should be able to predict the types of identities that they enact, or here, self-described, because it's survey data. But what I did in this paper is, after this wasn't in my dissertation in this form, a lot of playing around and thinking, I said, well, why don't we use self-sentiments to predict behaviors and emotions and traits, or emotions and behaviors directly, because we know that self-actualization is about identity selection, and confirmation of identities is about behaviors, and we know there are characteristic emotions that are associated with identities. So it's kind of taking both the affect control theory of self and the ACT model proper, and seeing what we have here. So my research questions essentially are, do self-sentiments directly predict feelings and behavior? Do self-sentiments predict deviant, negatively evaluated concepts as well as positively evaluated concepts? So in other theories, like identity theory, it's been argued that there's not much attention paid to the more deviant. It's more about role identities, wife, father, teacher, parent. So how does act self measure up here? And finally, are self-sentiments predictive over time? So this is, the data were collected 5 months apart among college students. So both Neil and Dave have done some of these kinds of equations cross-sectionally, but I'm also going to look at it longitudinally. So the sample, after listwise deletion, so this is 2 waves, 190 college men and women, quite white, median age 20. I'm really not going to focus on the demographics here because we're really looking at the theory's mechanisms it should operate. Similarly, the independent measures, so my predictors, are the distance between someone's self-sentiments and the EPA profile for 120 different concepts. So each participant has 120 of these values. So there's a distance measure for warrior, there's a distance measure for champion, there's a distance measure for loser. So what we're going to do is use these distance calculations between self-sentiments and EPA profiles to predict people's actual self-ratings of these concepts. So my self-sentiments are here, and if champion is very close, which for those of you who know me, obviously it's very close. When I answer the survey data, I should say, yes, absolutely, a champion describes me. And then for behavior, it was how frequently do you enact this? Again, I'm not going to get too in-depth, so I want to talk about the other stuff. So this is my self-sentiment. We're going to calculate the distance score for stable, that distance, brave, energetic, etc., for 120 concepts. And rather than talk about the specific concepts, because that's really not what this is about, although for those of you interested in this kind of work, I think it's helpful because we saw the prediction the predictions held up for things like primary emotions, for things like things related to self-esteem or self-efficacy, behaviors that are more deviant, such as drink or hook up, behaviors that are more social, like call someone, dote on these things. So there's a really pretty wide variety of concepts there, and on average, of course, we're averaging things, not telling us very much, we have concepts from every single dimension. Look at EP and A in combinations for high and low. So here's the thing. I designed this study not to do this. So what I was really interested in is 6 specific identities, which I won't get into, for various reasons, substantive reasons. So the concepts I have they were not systematically chosen, they were not randomly chosen, they just happen to pretty much cover EPA space. So that's important to know here. 44% of the concepts were collected at the first wave, so I'm looking at cross-sectional predictions as well as longitudinal predictions. Only about 15% of these concepts were bipolar, so that was, are you active or inactive? I didn't use that, but are you strong or weak, or I'm obviously thinking EPA terms, but winner or loser, okay? So more used what they use in identity theory. The majority of them were unipolar, like Neil does in the 2015 book. So how much does this describe you? Not at all, very much so. The majority of the concepts are traits based on my interests in the design of the study, and then about 15% of identity, feeling, behavior. I use the word feeling because it's not just emotions in there. There's feeling, emotion. Thanks, reviewer suggestion, just to kind of collapse that, and it doesn't make a difference. So do self-sentiments, okay, those are my questions. And what I find, again, I'm not looking at the individual items because it's out there, you can look at it. But what I was interested in, okay, so behavior is the reference category here. In this situation, I took essentially all of the coefficients and the p-values for my 120 hypothesis test, and the unit of analysis is now the concept. So I'm predicting the p-value. I also did this with the coefficients and whatnot. But here is the p-value using properties of the concept. So I'm predicting my dependent variable now is the p-value, and the independent variable behavior, etc. So there's really no effect. Positive versus negatively evaluated concepts. There was no effect for evaluation. So winner and loser.
We are apparently experiencing connection problems.
Connectivity issue. I know that they said
There has
they
to
were
be.
repairing of course, the internet in the hotel today. And I think they're turning it on and off and knocking us out of the live stream, so.
And my mom is listening.
Your mom
so.
will be really sad if she doesn't get to hear
Literally.
this. She's been in here like all day.
She's already
Yeah.
texting me.
All right.
She's Lillian Boyle number 11 now. She's been
Oh my God. I wish to hear that.
So much love.
I'm impressed with her dedication to learning about these things. That's amazing.
I explain all this stuff.
Hi,
I
Mom.
read all my papers, so hi, Lil. So we would expect, well, I would not expect, because the theory predicts the self-actualization proposition applies to deviant behaviors, or deviant identities as well as non-deviant identities. So we find no effect for evaluation. Not that that exactly gets at deviance, but it tells us something. No effect for potency, so the really strong identities or the really weak behaviors, nothing's going on. The only significant effect was activity. The more active a concept, the less able we are to predict it. Because I forgot to say the p-value is inverse here. So negative sign means more active. We don't know how to predict it. And then I played around, and all the other categories were here, but I cut it for space. So, and this effect also stands for our most positively, the higher you want E, P, and A compared to E plus, B minus, A plus, etc., that's also less predicted. So rather than thinking, okay, well maybe deviant behaviors aren't, or deviant concepts aren't going to be predictable, it's the most positive concepts in this set that are less predictable. And a lot of reviewing and revising, I've given some thought to that, but one of the most convincing arguments, I think, came from a reviewer, and I started thinking about it, is that most people feel pretty good about themselves. So what needs to be going on here is that the self-actualization proposition, this is better at predicting things that are over here. So if I'm a normal or a typical person, a loser is so far that I'm like, whoa, 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 this does not describe me. Versus, am I jittery or am I more neutral identity? So,
can you explain the activity thing one more time?
Yeah, so the dependent variable is the inverse of the p-value of the 120 hypothesis. Okay. So the data set, the concept, is the unit of analysis. So this means that concepts that are higher in activity have essentially a worse p-value. Does that make sense?
Is the p-value for predicting from the self-sentiment whether
To the
you're
concept.
getting the concept that describes you?
Yes. So that concept distance is less predictive for really active concepts. So, I know it's kind of funky. No effect for if it's more predictive cross-sectionally or longitudinally. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about there, but I'm going to keep going. So do self-sentiments predict feelings? Yes. Behavior, somewhat. It was the least predictable category, but it was also only collected at wave 2. So we have some, even though that was a multiple regression, there's still some things I can't account for. Behaviors were only at wave 2. Wave 2 is a little bit less predictable. Is that because it's behaviors a lot, or because it's longer? These things obviously need to be studied more systematically. Self-sentiments predict TV negatively evaluated concept, yes, and our self-sentiments predict over time, yes. So lingering questions, activity, we can talk about that all day. There's the most variance in activity dimension of self-sentiments in this sample. The activity of concepts are more dynamic, they change, and if I'm incorrect, please let me know. But in my reading, that's what I found. There's more variance. It can change a little bit more easily than the evaluation of potency of a concept. So maybe that applies to people. Maybe we're active, and then we're not. But we're pretty standard on where we are in terms of status and power, dominance, and things like that. So I would like to oversample certain areas of concepts and also oversample different demographic groups, because this is, again, college students, and I'm really interested in actually predicting self-sentiments too. So I think for that, we really do need a more diverse sample. I don't think they're rating concepts differently, as we've found in a lot of different studies, but how is being an LGBT woman of color, are there differences in self-sentiments? And I play around with this data, there are some differences, but we need to look at that. How am I on time? 1 minute. Okay. All right. So as someone who's both interested in theory, but also in specific social problems, things like mental health, I'm also interested, I'm just going to show you pictures. So essentially what I'm interested in is, can we use self-sentiments to predict, we know we can use it to predict traits and behaviors and whatnot, but what I do here, I'm just going to go right to it. These are 3 different dependent variables. I regress, I look at self-sentiments and how they affect disordered drinking, so established measures of health. Because not just a behavior like how often do you drink, but like, do you have a drinking disorder? That's not what I did in the previous study. And what I find is there are these pretty consistent effects where, for the partier identity, where self-sentiments predict your partier identity, all the traits that are close to partier in semantic space, This also predicts behaviors that are located close to party or in semantic space. And this is all brand new, so there are more systematic ways to go about this. And yeah, and then just more more stuff. I'm really interested in studying, some of you know, I mostly studied violence, but I really want to study more other kinds of things that are going on in college campuses that are detrimental to longer term success and outcomes. So how do our self-sentiments predict the traits we hold for ourselves and our different behaviors? And GPA is just one of the things, but also are people graduating? Are they skipping class? And things like that. So that's basically all I have time for. And finally, hopefully this can happen in the incubator tomorrow. I really want to talk about, if we understand the traits and behaviors that are related to self-sentiments, can we then go in reverse and shift self-sentiments and in turn mental health by enacting behaviors or maybe byproducts or looking at colors and things like that. I love all the stuff Ron's doing with Daniel, how those things might actually affect self-sentiment. So hopefully I won't be sitting at a table alone talking about that. I'll talk to you. Thank you.